fucking name!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by 10th Man, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome, one and all.
Good morning, everybody.
Hello.
Yeah, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, good morning. Pleasure to have you. Afternoon, evening, wherever you may be. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge? Horizon, formerly known as Earth curvature?
Nonsense.
We're still waiting.
Nada.
They can't distinguish curvature from refraction. Ask a glober if they can do it. They wouldn't know how to do it even if they saw it.
Doesn't matter if an individual globe head trench level fundy can't do it. Their rhetoric's based on them being able to measure an R value by way of a physical dip to a geometric sphere edge. That's been debunked. So when they say refraction, their refraction actually depends on being able to measure a physical geometric sphere edge, because their refraction involves the R value that's being measured with a physical geometric sphere edge horizon that we've debunked. So the whole model falls into a paradox. You can't get R to refract the horizon with R.
So what you're saying is their refraction is based on R being measured previously.
Yeah. And if you're moving a physical location that's being utilized to derive a value to refract things typically behind the horizon that's claimed to be a physical obstruction, i.e. sphere edge, well then when you start moving that physical geometry, you've no longer got set geometry. And you can't derive an R value. And you can't refract the horizon with R. It leaves you in a paradox. And when you put that to a fundy, they'll tell you things like, nobody's claiming the horizon's Earth curve, even though there's many, many calculators that specifically state the horizon is Earth curve, getting in the way of buildings and boats and stuff.
I remember Bill Nye doing a YouTube video of a ship going over a presupposed arc of a globe, and he was saying that that bulge is Earth curve at the horizon, covering the bottom up first of the ship. Eventually, the sails disappeared as it went over a curve.
Yeah, you'll find many an advice column telling you that the Earth curve argument starts at the horizon. Because it does. That's their claim. The horizon's Earth curve. It isn't. We've debunked it. Nice time to be a flat earther. Any evidence?
Yeah, we can play.
Go on.
Yeah, we can play their own. We can play their own videos from their high priest, showing them that this is what their verbiage was all along. Why are they changing it now?
Yeah, at trench level, but I don't really care about the people who come here. You know, at a fundamental level, the assertion that the globe makes is that they've got a horizon that's physically blocking things with its physical nature because it's Earth curve. And we've debunked it. The horizon is not Earth curve. That apparent location is not physical geometry capable of deriving an R value. And when we put that to the trenchers, they tell us how that physical location's being refracted. It's a not actual location and no one claims it is. Yeah, we've debunked Earth as a sphere here. It is truly epic to be a flat earther right now. And likewise, when a trench level fundy comes here and starts telling us about how we have axial rotation because Earth and atmosphere, spinners 1 and my reference frames are ruined, we can merely welcome them to a non-rotating Earth because they're supposed to have 15 degrees an hour of Earth rotating underneath things not attached to it. And we don't observe that effect, even though it's claimed by the heliocentric model that we do. And we've debunked it.
All game over.
Any evidence of axial rotation while we're on the subject? Feel free in Discord if you've heard any new claims or rebuttals in reference to the Coriolis deviation we should but do not see? Take that as a no.
Okay, I'll go.
Well,
yeah,
apart, go ahead.
No, go on.
No, you
Sing
go.
cleanser.
You go.
Well, usually they'll mention the Foucault pendulum, right? And they'll say at the equator, it wouldn't work the same as if it would, for instance, in like Paris or something. But I've never seen them actually use a Foucault pendulum at the equator. So it's like kind of a baseless claim to say that if it's not been demonstrated.
I tend to use the Foucault pendulum or a gyro, same principle, as a reaffirmation of their claim when they stand in denial of their claim at trench level. So, to make that clear, which you wasn't, their claim is Earth rotates underneath at 15 degrees an hour, regardless of your assertion that trenches have given you about its location. 15 degrees an hour drift is what you should observe in a gyroscope or pendulum because it's claimed Earth turns underneath it. So in the case of a pendulum, it's swinging back and forth only. And it's claimed to look like it swings to knock over the little dominoes because Earth's turning underneath it at 15 degrees an hour. That's the claim. Well, once you've established that they are indeed claiming Earth turns underneath at 15 degrees an hour, because that's what the pendulum's supposed to show, then you've got their claim tied down so they can't later say, no, we wouldn't expect to see drift, and deny the very claim they're making. Get it nicely established what the pendulum is actually designed to show. It's designed to show 15 degrees an hour deviation. That would be Coriolis effect observable from the non-inertial spinning reference frame as it's claimed to turn underneath. In that example, the non-inertial spinning reference frame is claimed to be Earth, turning underneath the pendulum. So we've got Earth turning underneath things not attached. And if Earth, as claimed by the pendulum, turns underneath at 15 degrees an hour, then it turns underneath drones, and it turns underneath helicopters, and it turns underneath hot air balloons, and it turns underneath snipers' bullets, and it turns underneath footballs, and it turns underneath anything that's not attached. However, we don't observe that effect, only demonstrable in a claim with a pendulum and things that are in the air for less than a few seconds, or a second, or a fraction of a second. So those things are claimed to have Earth turning underneath them. For example, Neil deGrasse Tyson says, like the pendulum claims, Earth turns under a football to cause a field goal to be scored. Made. Sorry, Neil. So that goal is made because Earth is claimed to have turned under the ball exactly the same as it's claimed to turn under the pendulum, and would also turn under the helicopter filming the game, and under an aeroplane flying across continents, shortening a flight when travelling west. For example, if Earth was turning underneath an aeroplane exactly as claimed by the pendulum and by Neil deGrasse Tyson with his football example, then a flight from Charlotte, North Carolina to Los Angeles would only take an hour and a half because Earth would be turning underneath it. And in reality, it takes 4.5 hours because Earth is not turning underneath anything that's in the claim to be inertial reference frame. We don't have a non-inertial spinning reference frame turning underneath things that aren't attached, like footballs or snipers' bullets, because it would also manifest in aeroplanes, helicopters, drones, hot air balloons, or you if you jumped up and down. But we don't see that effect. So the pendulum's useful to tie down the Fundy globe claim that we have, and here's the actual terminology, misused and abused at trench level, Coriolis deviation. That would be a non-inertial spinning reference frame turning underneath an inertial reference frame so that you, on the spinning reference frame, see things seeming to drift because you turn underneath them. Well, things seeming to drift includes drones seeming to drift away at 1,000 miles an hour while they hover. So they're not actually flying away from you, but it's claimed Earth turns underneath them. But that doesn't happen. You don't see drones whizzing away at 1,000 miles an hour on the equator because you're turning under them. It doesn't happen. There we go. Hope that helps.
Yeah, that was great.
Hello.
Hey, Owen. Good to have you. We're only on axial rotation.
Yeah, I heard.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun? Needs are.
Ooh, it's right over there. So shiny and bright. Whatever it is. That's it.
Anybody got any guesses? Let's have a little guess. I say it's 3. 3 what, you ask? Well, 3 Nathans.
Astronomical units, you mean? Relative to your understanding.
These are
You mean
debunked with Black Swan.
Arwinian units?
Any more on the distance to the sun? Other than it being shiny, shiny over there and maybe assuming R and applying the astronomical unit?
Well, they can't assume R anymore because R is dead.
Indeed.
Well, how long a fishing rod would you need before your fishing rod would go behind the sun?
At least 70
To
Nathans.
the one wielding it.
70, maybe even 80 Nathans. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
No, there's no such thing as gravity, even from their own side. It's not even a force. It got thrown under the bus, right? 106 years ago by Einstein.
Anybody from Discord been on their travels and got scientific evidence of gravity as they roamed around?
Well, there's one thing that I have noticed, and it was hilarious because it was QE talking to Rumpus, and I've been asking ballers. So you have Einstein's field equations that they kind of go into an insight of relativity. I haven't met a baller that can actually solve those equations and nevertheless explain them. But I think it was absolutely funny when you ask them, okay, you believe in relativity. Can you understand what he's saying in his field equations? I haven't met anyone that can.
Okay.
So I don't think they really even have a good understanding of what relativity or mass attracting mass or any of that, what gravity is. I don't think they really can articulate it.
Oh, I see what you're driving at. What you're saying is they don't know they haven't got a basic understanding of their own claim, is what you're saying. I'd agree.
Yeah, if you ask them to go into detail about that, how they measured these, how can you measure something if it's relative to something else? When you get into those field equations, I don't know of anybody that even knows what he was talking about, Einstein. But they'll believe Einsteinian relative mass attract, all this other stuff about it. I don't know.
Sure, we had a guy
Yeah,
who came here and claimed that he'd got varying zeniths as you went through a tunnel or made a tunnel through a mountain, and then asserted that there was gravitational fields that were causing these deviating plumb lines. And you're like, well, okay, tell us all about it. How is the concept of bending space-time causing this? And he hadn't got the vaguest idea what it was. You know, we didn't even get to Einstein's field equations. We're like, what's the geometry? Don't know.
Well, wasn't
exactly that
Einstein's,
was my main point, is that confusing form.
wasn't Einstein's 4D world there to replace Newton's mass attracts mass?
Replace?
Supersede.
In what sense?
Yeah, superseded it.
Superseded.
Yeah, replaced
You
it.
mean followed up as a just so story?
That's right.
Right. Because people still don't know what gravity is. Right?
Yeah, that's St.
Right,
They
Glenn's
so-
point.
don't know. They're still trying to find out what it is.
I don't think they're even trying. I think they'd rather just come here and go, gravity, and hope all is well afterwards.
That's much easier to do.
So since Einstein superseded Newton's mass attracts mass, he says, takes it to a concept, abstract space-time.
I'm just still puzzled. Like, if you don't know what it is, then how do you know it has to be there? That makes no sense.
He purposely, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, went there because it's so vague and there's no way of knowing. So
Where's
when you
there?
say the bending of space-time, well, what does that mean in reality? Bending of space-time? Well, can I see a demonstration of bending of space-time? It's so
No.
vague.
No, it's taking place in a conceptual medium. That's why I interrupted. Where is there? Well, there is space-time. Well, can you visit it? No. Well, can you move around in it? No. Is it real? No. It's just a way of describing something. It doesn't have to be describing something that actually exists.
Exactly.
Yeah, there is no 4D world. There is no second world. It's just a world they've invented to do the maths of gravity in. Well, that's nice.
So,
Not a force, though.
so
Oh, hold on. You can't exclude it from being there. It's just that there's no way to test it.
Where's
It
there?
might be
There is
there,
nothing
but
Ah,
we
there
will
we go
never
again.
know.
There we go again.
It's an
Where's there?
imagination.
Where's there? Being there? Being where?
In their heads.
Well, in the concept of 4D space-time that doesn't exist. Well, what is there? It is there, but where is there? Well, it's a conceptual medium that doesn't exist in reality. So there is no there to test it, but it does work there, because there isn't real.
We can't move around in it. Don't forget that.
can I do a dichotomy here? So mass attract mass, we can't see that. So that didn't work. So they went to bending of space-time. Well, we can't see that either. So they're 0 for 2.
Yeah, and likewise, we don't stand on a spherical model, a philosophy to explain the movement of the stars in a roundabout kind of way. That doesn't work all the time. Yeah, well, we don't stand on that sphere either. Likewise, there is
It's
no
0 for
gravity.
3.
It matters not that we don't have mass attracting mass justified by balls in sheds. You know, that 106-year out-of-date rhetoric was replaced with a new hotness of bending space-time in a medium that doesn't exist. Any single...
Now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah, getting nowhere. There isn't real. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Nonsense.
There isn't real as well applied to this.
Yeah, there is no there. There is no sky vacuum, there is no space, there is no space-time. None of these places are real. Now, if you want to get angry with someone about it, be angry with the actors who know damn well they're lying to you while they tell you that they're in a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum on high wire. You get angry with them because they are overtly lying to you, telling you that the sky is a vacuum. It's not. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Have you heard of the email hypothesis?
The email hypothesis, is that a natural phenomena? Ding, you've got mail.
I think it's man-made.
I don't know, we'd have to look into it. Doesn't sound natural.
It's got some issues though with junk mail.
I think that
Yeah,
was...
you have to control those variables.
Any evidence you can have gas pressure without a container? Again, given that we're being lied to about what the sky actually is, before we get a barrage of questions about what it is, given that we must have containment to have gas pressure. Hey, Paul.
Give me 2 containers and I'll demonstrate it.
You
Give me...
cannot have gas pressure out of container.
That's right. You need a container, less demonstration. Oh, right. Well, just give me a couple of containers and I'll show you gas pressure without one. No bother. Just need 2.
Didn't you just play a recording the other day of a guy who is saying you got to have a container for gas?
He was one of the people who demonstrated gas pressure without a container with 2 containers. That was Blue Marble Science.
But he had a change of heart in that last recording I heard.
No, it doesn't apply to the Earth, though.
And the Earth in their example and their vernacular is a model that we don't stand on. So saying natural law, something that occurs always and has a description, that doesn't apply. No, it applies always, or it wouldn't be a natural law. What you mean is it can't apply to your model because your model's not real. You can't have a ball with gas on the outside in a vacuum and the gas not dispersing. That doesn't happen, can't happen, will never happen. It stands in violation of natural law.
Well, it
Yeah.
needs something to press on, right? That's why you got the word pressure. And if there's nothing there, what is it pressing on?
It's not, it would disperse. That's why the sky is not a vacuum. If the sky was a vacuum, it would be a vast space for the gas to fill. And gas which expands in all directions will simply fill the availability of volume it has to fill. And if the sky was a space to fill, gas would fill it. And what do you know? They call that space, space.
Well, I think you have to go back to what you just said, because this is the way they think in their mind. My model is this sphere, and all this vastness of a vacuum. That's my model. So that's what I believe in. Now, when you say natural law to that, well, it doesn't apply to that. But then when you say natural law to what we're actually seeing and feeling and observing through our senses, well, yeah, you need a container for that one.
That was the thing with Blue Marble. He made a second video about how you can have gas pressure without a container, and even in his second try, he still had a pipe, and he still had gas contained by a container. Like that was he wasn't debunking it. He was just proving that you still have to have a container to have gas pressure.
I say a couple of hellos to all of the members who are chatting away happily. So hello to Unicorn Laser Eyes, Robert L, M, Eagle Plane and Anchor, Arwin, you're a mod, Antecedent Algonquin Collective, and Jadu. Good to have you all. Oh, and Hoppy One. Pleased to have you all. Thank you for being Nathan Oakley 1980 members. Good to see you all chatting happily, without trolls, who are free to welcome and join to verbally challenge us. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Nonsense.
Only on their model.
Swan.
Speaking of Black Swan, any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
Nonsense.
Crickets. Well, if there was, we would see geometric horizon where it's supposed to be, right?
Yeah, that's
Listen, the whole thing is nonsense.
Yes, 10th. It would be a physical geometric limitation to our vision if Earth was a sphere. It is also claimed to be exactly that. The horizon is claimed to be Earth curvature. It isn't. It's a not actual location where the sky appears to meet the ground. Non-physical. Hey, Paul.
Good morning, guys.
Hey, chocolate. Hey, Paul.
Hey, Chocolate.
Hey,
Good morning.
guys.
For those of you unfamiliar with the Black Swan argument, if the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, then every distance to horizon, that would be the geometric horizon, could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. And the Black Swan demonstrates a horizon way beyond the physical limitations of a sphere with a radius 3959. Therefore, the horizon is not physical, you cannot derive an R value, and you cannot assert that you have any proof whatsoever of physical sphericity, because the Earth is not a sphere. Earth is obviously and observably and measurably flat. That concludes
Well, there was a
housekeeping.
couple of people from NASA, and Nathan Thompson went into their neighborhood, a NASA-infested neighborhood, speaking to some of them people, and they said they worked there for 20 years, and they know the Earth is not flat.
Well, how do they know? Because of their colleagues broadcasting from a
Because they
second law
worked
of
there for
thermodynamics violation sky vacuum? Because of the assertion that from the ground you can measure a physical geometric sphere edge obscuring things in the distance? Why would they claim that? Because they have faith. And why wouldn't you? Why would you assume that the higher-ups who are sending down transmissions from a claim to be second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum known as outer space would be lying? Well, I don't know their motivation, but they definitely are lying. You can't have gas
I know
pressure
their
without a container.
motivation. I know their motivation. You got to see the neighborhood they live in. Woo!
So money?
Nice.
Maybe.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Maybe.
yeah. Beautiful neighborhood. Beautiful homes.
What is it, the main streets of NASA? What the hell? They got
Yeah.
NASA neighborhoods now?
Yeah,
What's going on?
Nathan Thompson found it. He went with him, Whitsitt, and another guy, and they were speaking to NASA employees. The one guy said, "Listen, I just came here because my mom is sick. I'm going to take care of her."
You could spot a NASA neighborhood because the houses aren't close. They have a lot of space in between.
Oh,
I just want to make something clear. I do not advocate hassling people, right? So NASA employees, I'm going to say this, 99% of them have no clue that there's any deception whatsoever. There are a very, very small handful of people that I can point at specifically and say they know they are lying while they're on trapeze claiming to be in space. They're not. They can't be. That is an impossibility. It's a violation of natural law, and they are liars. Now, as for the rest of the NASA employees, you can't go around hassling these people. Why? Well, because they work for a company that lies. Well, get in line. So what? That doesn't make these people liars. It doesn't make them bad people. In fact, I'm quite sure they're all very honest, hardworking, upstanding people who think they're doing something for the greater good and are very proud thereof. So to hassle these people, I just think it's downright wrong. You know, what we do
I agree,
here...
but it was funny.
But it was funny. What? He's hassling people, right?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. I was cringing a little bit because I felt the same way.
Like, do as what, you know, if you think it's right to go and hassle people, Nathan Thompson, then that's entirely your bag, right? But how do you know that the person that you're hassling has any connection whatsoever to the deception? It's more likely than not that they don't.
Neighborhood.
Again?
What does
I
it
want to know how he
achieve?
found the NASA neighborhood.
Yeah, but so what? If 99% of them haven't got the vaguest clue that there's any deception being perpetrated, yeah, they're just like average Joe. Now, they might have a better car if NASA pays well. Well, what, are you there because you're jealous that they've got a nice house and a nice... Good for them. So what? Let them live the way they live and attack the arguments at the root problem. Where the lies lie, you can... or lay, you can point them out. But does that mean that all NASA employees are bad people who lie? No, definitely not.
Yeah, and those things that Nathan Thompson does, ultimately, they just make him look stupid and petty.
It's a strange and it's kind of a weird look. It's just hard to get behind.
It's a childish approach. It's...
And at
But
the
I
same...
kind of liken it to when you first become a Christian.
So,
You know, you want to go out, you want to tell everybody, but then, you know, you gain wisdom as you grow older. And you
Let's not.
realize that you were more of a reproach than an attraction.
Let's not talk about Christianity. Let's talk about a comparison with Bart Sabrell, where many of his critics said the same thing. His approach seems childish. Try and spring it on these NASA employees. Now, in that example, I've got no sympathy whatsoever. They're the same. They're liars. And having Bart Sabrell spring that on them, do whatever you like with them. They're outright liars. And they know it. Now, they deserve what they get from Bart Sabrell, childish or otherwise. I've got no sympathy for them. But as for your average employee of NASA, I just think it's wrong. You know, they're just people. And, you know, if you approach them because they're just considered to be average Joe normal, and you just talk to them on that level, you happen to strike a conversation and discuss this subject, you should really ignore any perceived bias that you have because of their employer, because it might not necessarily be the case. Now, your chances of stumbling somebody who's actually in on the lie or the deception is 1 in 100, if at best, if you ask me. Probably far less, given the amount of employees they've got.
Unless they come off thinking they know something better than you do because of where they work. Then it's a wrap after that. I don't care who you think you are. You're going to know more than me because you work in NASA? That's a different story altogether.
Exactly.
Well, the last two, that's what they did. They were, I think they looked like young girls riding bikes. And, well, they couldn't have been that young because they said they worked there for 20 years.
I think most of the NASA employees would be lifelong NASA lovers from childhood. You know, those are the types of people that they pick.
Can't say all of them are like that.
They have like an affection to it.
Yeah, the fanboys of NASA. They're the ones that get chosen. The really hardcore ones.
The curators of it. Yeah, but I think everybody, flat earther, glober, regardless, like we can all agree that they're probably compartmentalized to some extent. So, because you get frustrated that there's a graphic designer that works for NASA, it's You can't. It's just not the same. It's not the same at all.
I cast my mind back to
Nobody's trying to debate the janitor, right? The guy who's cleaning up the hallways and asking. Like when Nathan Thompson goes up against like somebody who considers himself a rocket scientist, right? I have no problems with that. If you're putting yourself out there as a rocket, if you didn't want to talk, then don't talk. That's it. But if you're gonna put yourself out there,
I don't even agree then. I think.
Hold on, I got
Hold
one.
on, Neil. Hold on. I've been trying to get this in for a while. So, if you cast your mind back, if you've been around for a while, Jaron will have explained this with someone he discussed from NASA.
What do you want me to do? Where am I going to put him?
You mute yourself, Chocolate. Chocolate.
My bad.
That's okay. Jaron was talking to somebody who had either a father or was specifically a rocket engineer. Right? I can't remember. This is going back a long way. But the conclusion at the end of the discussion was that part of the effectiveness of NASA is having plenty of employees that all have real jobs and do create real things. Now, does that mean that if you're creating a small part to go onto a NASA-engineered craft, that craft isn't actually substituted for a half-scale model and launched into the ocean? Or stuck up on a balloon? But you're just unaware of it. You just don't know. Now, obviously, you're going to have a limited amount of understanding, and your job will be very specialist if you're working for NASA, even if you're a rocket scientist. And again, the same exact principle applies. If you're a rocket scientist, then you're going to be putting your heart and soul into it for the greater good, thinking you're benefiting humanity with your rocket understandings. Does that mean any of them are fake? For example, I don't know if he was a NASA employee, he was an aerospace employee that does acoustics, and he puts it on his CV. And he now does acoustics, and he's very proud of the work that he did with the engineering that he'd learned how to utilise when he was working in aerospace. Now, does that mean that suddenly, well, you're fair game to be told that you're a liar, or, in some way pinned up against the wall because you've worked hard for an aerospace company? No, of course it doesn't. Likewise with rocket scientists. If they want to work hard in a job and get paid well for doing so after learning a trade, who are you to piss on their bonfire, is what I'm saying. Now, there are exceptions to the rule, but how are you going to get to those people? Chances are you'll never even know who they are, let alone get to them. The people on strings, both figuratively and literally in this example, are merely puppets. The people who are on the high wire pretending to be in space, they're just actors. They've been employed for a purpose to put distance between the actual overt liars. Now, the fact that they have to be let in on that secret at some stage, that must be the case, because they can't be doing what they're claiming to be doing. Now, again, to a limited extent, can you blame the actors? Because they've been put in a position that undoubtedly they didn't want to be put in when they were told the truth. Yeah, we've seen the miserable look on Neil Armstrong's face in interview after claiming to have returned to a place he didn't go to. He looked like someone just took a big fat shit in his cornflakes. He looked depressed. So these people are left in a position by an unknown third party where they've got to lie. Now, I doubt very much that they're proud or pleased with that position. At the end of their rather miserable life, they're probably depressed and alcoholics in many instances because of just that. Now, for me, in some instances with a slightly different hat on, I actually pity them. I pity someone like Neil Armstrong going down in the history books when he's just had to lie, presumably under duress. So does he need hassle? Now, again, earlier I completely contradicted this statement by saying I've got no sympathy when it comes to Bart Sabrell getting, people like Neil Armstrong over a barrel. Well, because I know they're lying. But I could still empathise with them and say, well, why? Why would anybody want to do that in front of millions of people? It's high risk, right? Well, chances are they were coerced into doing it and were led to believe by a deceitful bunch of liars that we are not privy to, that they were actually going to go and do the thing they said they did. They were actually going to travel to the moon through a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum called space and land on a rock in the sky we call the moon. But we have no clue of what it actually is. Well, they actually, at some stage, I am in no doubt, thought that's what they were doing. And the reason I believe that is because they expressed genuine concerns prior to the mission actually being faked. They wanted to test the equipment and make sure it was working, and lots of people were fussed about it not working properly. In other words, they took it very seriously. Now, they thought they were going to be held as heroes. They came back liars. How depressing would that be? Does that deserve scorn? Well, until you find out who was the person that put them in that position in the first instance, they're just puppets. Why throw tomatoes at the puppets?
Hold on. Then what about the guy that comes to Times Square Church as one of the last astronauts to go to the moon and come and give a grand speech of how everything was? Now they can infiltrate our neighborhoods, but we can't infiltrate their neighborhoods. I don't know. It doesn't seem right.
Yeah, he's
You're
a
leading
liar.
a whole bunch of people astray.
Sure, I'm not disputing that. I've already said once that I've got no sympathy when Bart Sabrell goes and grills them, because we know they're liars. At least he's got a justification for doing so. But I still take that hat off, put the other hat on and go, shouldn't we empathise with these people? Do they want to be in that position? Do you think they might have got there thinking that they were going to be doing grander things to only find out at some stage that they weren't really going to be doing that? Yeah, your love of going to... Yeah, that's not real. Actually, it's far cheaper. They might even lie to them even more. Yeah, we did go to space, because obviously it's real. But now it's just that much more expensive, and really it's easier to just do it in this green screen, so you can just go and do it. But trust me, space is still real. Now get on with it in front of the green screen. Here's your high wire. No, you're not going to be going to space.
Yeah,
Hello?
can I get a word in
Brian.
real quick?
Go ahead.
Brian? Yeah, the average Joe that works at NASA was promised the rocketing career. That's why they're there.
Exactly.
Well, that leads me to believe that my idea is correct, that they're in some sort of simulation, that they really believe that they're going to these places. How else could you stand in a church and give a testimony that you were there? It has to be some kind of high-end place they're going to where they really think that they're going to these places.
People lie,
Like
Neil.
the ride I went
People
on
lie.
Friday.
Neil, people lie. That's it. People lie. That's the only reason.
In church? To thousands of
Yeah.
people?
Yeah.
Millions that
Yeah.
are going to hear it on the DVD?
Yeah, in church, Neil, yeah.
I don't know. They're in some sort of simulation. I went to a ride in Disney. I'm telling you, I thought I was in Africa. They could have sent me to the moon. I would have thought I was there.
Yeah, but you knew you were on that ride.
But you had to pay to go on that ride.
What if they're being deceived and they don't know?
Oh, hold on, Neil. Hold on. What a great sentence. You had to pay to go there. Right. Now ask yourself, sat in the position of Neil Armstrong for the sake of argument, what did he have to pay? What did it cost him?
Reputation.
You see, I don't believe that all of the original astronauts were not in on it. I believe some of them were, and some of them were not, and they were all friends. But the ones that were, like Buzz Aldrin, I reckon he was totally in on it. Neil Armstrong, no, he was totally naive. A totally naive, God-fearing person. And I would say it's very likely some of them were and some of them were not. And when push came to shove, they had the good cop, bad cop thing going on, where the good cop was people like Buzz Aldrin saying, look, we have to do this because of blah, blah, blah. We have to make it look like we went. This is the way it has to be. The bad cop then is the other people behind him saying, if you don't do it, see that grandson you have, he's dead. That granddaughter you have, she's dead. Because they don't.
Wow, you think it's that severe?
Absolutely. To
They
control the world.
They made a movie on
nothing
it.
they won't do.
They made a movie. Brian,
yeah, they made a movie about it.
It's called Capricorn 1.
Yeah, but who made the movie? Who allowed that movie out? You know what I mean?
No, I agree. I'm just saying they made a movie called Capricorn 1 where these astronauts were supposed to go, but the last minute they were taken off and they were lying to everybody that they were in space, but they were in some shelter in the desert, and they were play acting and filming in the studio. And so you just got to see the movie Capricorn 1. It's right in
I remember
face.
it. I remember seeing it when it was on TV when I was very young. But the thing about it is, if they have a couple of very honest people, someone like Neil Armstrong, and this person believes that this is going to happen, and then they're told at the very end that it's not happening, they do have people in the public eye before the thing happens that are very, very straight-laced and kind of holy, if you know what I'm saying, holy or that kind of way. Someone who, the average American, especially at the time, could go, yeah, this is a good American person who is a God-fearing Christian person, and they're going to do the right thing, and this is for the world, and America is going to put the flag on the moon, and it's going to be a big deal. And then you have people like Buzz Aldrin, who was a lawyer from the start, who knew, probably related to people who were maybe, I don't know, a part of the societies that do these things that are controlled. There's people in control of things. We're not it. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to say who they are. I don't know. There's all different names on them.
That's the George Carlin Club, and we're not in it.
Yeah, exactly. We're not in that club. So whatever is going on there, they faked it. And I think maybe now they're kind of going, maybe that wasn't the best idea. But who knows?
Anybody from Discord got any comments on this? Faking space? NASA, generally?
Yeah, compartmentalization is a powerful thing.
My biggest thing for this is that it seems like the America and Russia are constantly fighting. The Russian trying to circumvent elections, spying, soldiers being injured on the battlefield, funding, these proxy wars, Vietnam, and all the other places. Instead of listing them, but yet somehow there's two places that America and Russia get along just fine: Antarctica and space. Almost like they don't even exist.
Yeah, all the rest of that's theater.
What was that?
All of the Russia-American aggression against each other is all theater for the rest of the world.
I agree with that.
Yeah, if you listen to Mark Sargent, in fairness to Mark Sargent, he's been saying this for 6-7 years now, probably at this stage. It's like this. They didn't really know what way they were on. They suspected that we were on a flat world. I don't think they ever believed they were on a rotating globe. And whatever happened to them when they went towards Antarctica. Now, I don't know if Antarctica is an ice wall surrounding as a shoreline. It could just be a continent, and the shoreline is after that. But there has to be a sort of shoreline. So whatever they found out, that caused them to create this mock moon landing. Whatever they found out, that caused them to do what they did. But they definitely found out what was going on, or at least a lot more knowledge than we have. And that's why that happened. So they're all enemies until it comes to, as the man just said, Antarctica and space, because the two of those are intrinsically linked. Sorry, I can't say the word.
Okay, I'm going to share with you a little video that was found by a YouTuber called James L.E. And the snippet, and he did put a link to somebody he found it from, and they had a link from someone they found it from, etc., etc. The News Benders, Predictive Programming, 1967. So it's a fictional presentation. And if you've ever seen the movie Wag the Dog, you'll have a reasonable idea, although that's a bit more funny and less sinister. That's a similar sort of thing to this particular presentation. So I'm just going to play a couple of seconds of it just so you can get an idea of what it is.
Things whizzing about up there, did you? Sputniks and rockets? Astronauts crossing their legs for 8 days.
How long has this been going on?
Since Hiroshima.
And the H-bomb, you mean, that doesn't work either?
Right. Dirty.
Very, very dirty.
What was your first reaction? Relief. Oh, yes.
Anyway, I'm going to stick a link to this in the live stream. So even if you're not a member, you can still click on this link and just go and check it. And say a little thank you to James L.E. for digging out this clip. It's well worth watching. It's about 15 minutes long, but please check it out. I'm sure you will enjoy it. But it basically goes through a lot of predictive programming and subliminal messaging, doctoring the news. And the general premise is that they're planning the news for 1973 in, I think it's 1968 or something like that. And the chap explains that they don't really go into any massive detail until about a year before the news actually comes out. But they get an idea of what they're going to be publishing and why. And the general idea of why they're doing it is to keep everybody in fear with various different means. And the point in that that I just played, he's asking the guy, "What's your reaction now? You know it's all fake. Now you know that the news is just made up in this fictional adaptation." And the guy says, "Well, relief. You know, in other words, it's nice to know that there isn't anything in this instance that's going to inevitably come and kill me or whatever." And he's like, "Yeah, well, that's the point of it all. You know, we need to keep the people scared. It's an exercise in control." And he details how and why and what they do to do it. And, you know, he gives a vague, he alludes to who the they might be, although he doesn't say. It's very entertaining. You should definitely check it out. Links in the live stream chat.
I just heard an interview with John Lennon, one of his last interviews, and he was talking about how when he had his second son, he became more of a, he switched roles with his wife because he was no good in business. She took care of the business, and he started baking bread and you know, doing things like that. And he said at the end, "I wish they would teach things like that in school instead of this spinning world that they say we live on, bunch of nonsense." I thought that was interesting at the end, how he
let people know he didn't believe in Sphere Earth. I love it.
No, he called it like it was nonsense.
Well, he was connected to the Tavistock Institute. Weren't the Beatles connected to that? So
That's all that Paul is dead stuff. Then you got to believe that the guy that took his place was better than the original Paul McCartney. I don't know. That's too much.
Hold on, let's not get into the conspiracy stuff. Tavistock, you can explain. Brian, do you want to explain to the audience what Tavistock is?
Well, it's basically manipulation. Is the point of Tavistock. I can't remember everything about it, but I do remember it's basically manipulation of the masses. It's psychological manipulation. If you maybe you should do it, Nathan. You probably know a little bit more about it, but I'm not saying that Paul McCartney is not Paul McCartney. I don't know about any of that, but the Tavistock Institute is like, it was a psychological operation, was it not?
I don't know. That's why I asked you. You brought it up.
I know about Tavistock. Yeah, it was a manipulation because they were trying to figure out how thousands of girls would be screaming and urine was flowing down the sewers. They were just wetting themselves over 4 lads from England.
Nobody's backing you up. Brian's not filling us in on the details, although he brought this.
I was going to say, I was going to say that's a piss poor excuse for an institute.
No, the Tavistock Institute was I don't know if they're even still around. I'm sure they are, maybe under a different name. But it was a psychological manipulation. They were using the likes of the Beatles to as a way of controlling popular culture at the time. Do you know what I mean? The Beatles were the first. Yeah, they were the first real pop band. You reckon they were? You know. But they already had rock. They had like what's the lad's name? The black lad, the famous guitarist. They already had him from back in the 50s.
Hendrix.
Chuck Berry.
No, Hendrix was Chuck Berry, and people like that. They already had like him, and he was the faces like that were the faces of rock, but they didn't have pop music in the same way. You know, and that was kind of on the rock was on the fringe, but when they have pop music, like it was perfect. These couple of guys from Liverpool with all nice haircuts, they really, it was about controlling the younger people and bringing about also a kind of like an LSD revolution, you know, this kind of nonsense. It was a lot of kind of bending of social norms and kind of family norms, you know, and that where we are today, we do like how much more attack is there on the family in today's world.
You're describing the 60s
from there.
Well, yeah, describing the 60s.
I'll read out.
But the Beatles are the 60s.
Well, before we get into the Beatles again, I'll just read out from it's tavinstitute.org or the Tavistock Institute website, and there's a "Who are we?" The
Tavistock Institute of Human Resources, or TIHR, applies social science to contemporary issues and problems. It was established as a not-for-profit organisation with charitable purpose in 1947. The Institute is engaged with evaluation and action research, organisational development and change consultancy, executive coaching and professional development, and all in service of supporting sustainable change and ongoing learning.
That's a bunch of bullshit.
Adam knows a bit about it. If he comes in,
I've got a new word.
I think Adam knows a bit about it.
Yeah, I'll just read on our history. This is a word I'm not familiar with. Maybe someone... Psychonactics. Psychoanalytic. Psychoanalytic. There you go. Spelt it out and I could actually read it. Psychoanalytic. Okay, I'll just read this. Our history. We were formally founded as a registered charity in September 1947. In our early work, we brought together staff from different disciplines to find ways to apply psychoanalytic and open system concepts to group and organisational life. That's their history, according to them.
It's just a description of social engineering. That's it.
There you go. Those were the two words.
Analyzing the psyche of people.
Yeah, but social engineering can also be to stabilize things, to whatever. It's just playing with society.
Or destabilize.
That could happen too.
Or restabilize.
I mean, obviously, I, off the top of my head, couldn't think of any examples of destabilization that these sorts of things could infer. Are we all enjoying the lockdown, by the way?
Yeah.
You just have it rough over there, right, Nathan?
I don't pay attention to the news. Occasionally it slips in through the things that I do pay attention to. But on the whole, I'm annoyed that I can't go swimming with my kids, and I'm annoyed that I can't take them to certain private tuition that I took them to. That annoys me because I can't speak Spanish. So how am I going to teach them it? So that's kind of frustrating. And I haven't got a pool. So how am I going to teach them to swim? There are certain things that are beyond even my limitations as an educator. So, you know, I haven't got a big enough puddle. So what am I going to do? That's frustrating. But beyond that, life goes on, right? I accepted this in about January of 2020. And I had my little moment. I shed a tear, told everyone that the new normal was here. And then about a day later, I was like, we're just going to have to accept this. This is the way it's going to be. And I've been saying it ever since when people are like, oh, when do you think this will end? Never. This is it now. Just get used to it.
America, you got to learn how to speak Spanish because we got 14 million people coming in.
JLB pointed this out, right?
Too, at first, when the ballers were really having this attitude of like, yeah, this is gonna be shut down, right? Like, this is just a joke. It's all gonna end, right?
That's only going to be a couple of weeks.
A lot of people like that back then.
You'll only have to be locked in your house for a couple of weeks. Just a couple of weeks. That's all it'll be. It's all right. Just be a couple of weeks.
And what was really
Studies are showing.
What was really good is they kept it going all through summer and back right around to the next flu season.
It's been a full year.
Class.
Yeah. They were discussing it and changing laws back in January 2020. And when I cottoned on, I'm like, oh no, this has happened. It's not like this is happening under our nose. It's already too late. And nothing's even happened for the masses yet. I wonder what will happen. This is bad news. Anyway.
Yeah, well, the thing
new studies are being
caved in 4 days. So, I mean, if you're going to give away your freedom that easy, you know, you have to kind of go, do you deserve it?
Freedom? What's that? Hold on. Let's get this out of the way before we go to the after show. Freedom? What's that exactly?
A concept.
A concept? What's a concept?
A thing you have in your mind that may be true because you want it to be.
Oh, I see. So in your mind, you had this thing called freedom? And what was that? What was that like?
No. There is freedom. There's the freedom to choose your slavery. You have a pick.
It's like the choice in, what is it, Batman, The Dark Knight Rises. Do you want death or exile? Well, I choose death. Okay, death by exile.
That
A lot of new studies are showing that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Say that again.
Oh, a lot of new studies are showing that these lockdowns had like, harmful side effects. People losing vitamin D, family problems, suicide. That this stuff didn't work at all. If maybe it actually made everything worse.
The sad parts of it. Yeah, they never considered the actual effect of what they're getting you scared about. Really.
What makes you think that?
Well, there's going to be a reaction for them doing what is happening, right?
All right.
People losing
have a
jobs,
process that
people
utilises
alienating, distancing.
Kind of like problem, reaction, solution. That sort of idea.
Yeah, David Icke.
Well, a solution is one way of saying it.
Yeah, solution to the problem. I mean, the problem doesn't have to be a real problem, and the reaction can be an engineered reaction. But the solution is your ultimate goal, and that's whatever solution that you need to provide. Anyway, I'm going to cut to the after show with that before we get into something that might get me demonetized. So with that, I'll say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. As I say, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video. Shout out to Retro Bill for hitting the super chat. Really appreciate your support.